Not bitter at all about that.
No, not bitter at all. Not bitter at all. Didn't impede my playing one bit. I am still shit. But I'm Pete Steele.
But after Slow, Deep and Hard Thing, it came what was meant to be, they were given money to do a live album, which they called The Origin of Feces.
The Origin of the Feces, yes.
Yeah, and they never got around to doing it. So I think it was like a week before the album was due in, they went into the studio themselves and put in like live effects and recorded one or two new songs, which one of the funny, and I think this is where their humour starts coming through a bit more, especially with kind of like the Hey Peter one, where it's like the Hey Joe fucking kind of like thing, but it's about him going off killing someone with an axe. That's after cheating on. He said there's a lot of stuff about cheating,
yeah,
kind of like with it, but I think it's actually the first time that I heard them was that album, because they used to have people in Waterford, where from, there's a place called the Book Centre, and they opened up the upstairs part of it where they started selling CDs and stuff, but people weren't really going in there over kind of like, there was another place called what was BPM called before that? But
BPM and Golden Discs.
Yeah, they had The Origin of the Feces up there on CD for, I think it was £1 I got it for.
Jesus.
And that was the first time I heard Typo, because I thought it was really funny, kind of like name.
It's very expensive.
Yes, £1.
But yeah, it's not a great album, but it is a funny album, because
and
like they have
the cover art.
Yeah, but they have bits in it as well where people are booing.
Yeah, they're kind of like, this is our last song, and people go, way!
It is. It's very funny. Like, it is really, 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 really good.
You can even see that, like the before this, I went off and kind of listened to I think it was like the special edition of October Rust, and like the first song in that is just electric noise, and then they come on after going, yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, the rest of the album will be good.
Yeah,
I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, who does that for their live album? Who has like the audience actively hating them and like booing them off stage, kind of thing? Most bands, when they're in that kind of infancy stage, I suppose, they're all like about like, yeah, let's big ourselves up, and let's make it out that the audience loves us, and all the rest. If you can control what the audience sound is going.
But they built up all that thing. Like, they were loved, and they used to play in like fucking Madison Square Garden every Halloween, and so they were really, really loved. And they're a very New York band, and it is all that busting balls stuff. And like, I mean, they were funny on stage. I remember seeing Jesus, it was fucking obviously it was years ago, it was in the 90s. I think it was a Headbangers Ball had one of their live gigs. They played it around for the Halloween thing, and like people were booing as a joke, you know. And he was like, "Oh, we know you hate us, we know we suck." It's that kind of thing like NoFX have as well, where they're like, "Oh,
we suck, we know it. We know you love us secretly."
But yeah, when they got signed by Roadrunner with Bloody Kisses, and like, I mean, Bloody Kisses was definitely the big breakout thing for him. Because of MTV. Like, we keep talking about MTV, people don't played a massive part in fucking bands like in the 80s and the 90s. But it was kind of like that they got signed to Roadrunner, and they went in and they basically produced and recorded everything themselves on it. When you kind of like see interviews with Josh Silver, he was saying like, yeah, we went in there, we were like, all that we kept being told was like £6 or $6 a minute. This is how much it's costing. So they rehearsed everything before they went in. They fucking just like
nailed everything.
It's like the old way to. Oh no, it wouldn't be old, but it's kind of like nowadays people, they don't even go into the studio with each other. Everything can be done, or people record it in their homes. And at that stage, they went in and they fucking played it together, and they got it. They had to get it right. So the thing is, you'd have I think it's around 70-minute long album, and kind of like
all the albums are around that. Yeah,
and like 14 songs. So to record 14 songs in the space of like a week or 2 weeks is
pretty fucking amazing. Yeah. So
to get everything down and to get it, and as well, I suppose with limitations of all that as well, it's kind of good, because it's like, right, it's not, you can't get things perfectly. This is what it sounds like, and you get all those quirks in it as well, like the odd mistake here and there, people play, you know, but kind of with it. But yeah, they insisted on doing it all themselves. with even Roadrunner were like, oh, let's maybe get in a producer and we can put it, and they're like, no, we're doing it. Even down to the artwork they had, and this is where kind of like you'll hear stuff about like Pete Steele's kind of like love of the colour green, where his whole thing is that like he apparently went through, well, the myth is that like he went through hundreds of different colours of green with the artist kind of for the cover, so until they found the right one. Yeah.
It's like, which green do you want? It's like, well, I wanted to look like my father's green. It's like, what do you mean? Well, my father's Kermit the Frog.
I see. Well, yeah, this album
you tell because we both have a very deep New York accent. Me and Kermit.
Crazy being green.
They would have been great actually on the Muppets.
Yeah. Did they ever go on the Muppets?
I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah, this album, Mark, what did you think of it? Or did you listen to this album, Jen, as well? I presume you did. If
yeah,
Dewey in the same, yeah.
No, I like Bloody Kisses now as well. As I said, like it's like you can see, like this is when they like. I didn't listen to the previous one, so I can't really comment on them. But like for this one, you can just see it's like it's a really well put together album. It just works from start to finish, and I just really enjoyed it. But as I said, I think it's a little bit of nostalgia is kind of guiding me that I prefer the October Rust over it. But they're both still great albums.
This was definitely much kind of like the build up to October Rust, I think. But as well,
Bloody Kisses went platinum, didn't it?
Yeah, it was the first record on Roadrunner as well to go platinum. And they were saying as well that what was doing, there was like a weird counting system in place at the time, and I think they had, say, maybe 750,000 copies sold, which had them at the gold kind of mark. And they were like, we've definitely fucking sold more copies than this. And there was like digipack different versions of it out that weren't being counted. And then when they did eventually count those, other than like just the vinyl kind of thing of it, say, then it was like, it was over 1 million, and they got their platinum record from it. But a large part was like they had, like Pete Steele often talked about that he thought that image was very, very important. So I suppose it's that kind of like, blue collar approach things where he was like, well, if we're working in the band, well, like the whole thing is kind of like we have to look the part and we have to act the part. So they like their image was very kind of like much put together. And as well, like people when they're talking about him, they're saying he was very extreme. So the whole thing is when he went into weightlifting, everything was about weightlifting. So he was like this kind of slender kind of guy with fucking massive arms and 6'8". And then with the vampire thing going on.
Yeah.
And that all came down from the underground scene because they weren't really into the goth scene really that much, and they kind of started hanging out in I can't remember what they're saying, but like these kind of like smaller kind of like venues in New York, and started hanging around with goths, and they were like, this is really cool, and that kind of like really brought in their influence into their music as well. But like image wise as well, I think I'm not 100% sure. Well, maybe Black Number 1 was the first one to come out, and that was like a piss take song as well about like a girl that he used to go out with. Yeah. And like the music video for that is fucking hilarious. I every time I see the video, there's like, I'm 100% sure there's goblins up in the trees headbanging. But as well, it was just the whole thing is what seeing someone on a keyboard fucking headbanging.
Just absolutely rocking out on a keyboard. And it's like, all right, simmer down.
And the difference in the singing as well, where it's like that kind of like real deep baritone kind of thing, and then the screechy, wanna go. And the video, it's just, I'm seeing him with the fucking the bass, like the double bass, just strapped around him, kind of like,
I know, and he can carry it off because he's so bloody like, massive.
Fucking hell. Well, yeah, and the Christian Woman. Have you seen the music video for Christian Woman?
No, I didn't really look at any of the music videos now. It's kind of one of my failings at the moment. I just tend to kind of draw on the music and listen to it itself. And I know like a lot of the videos for a lot of the bands we've covered in the past, and Type O Negative included, are probably artwork in and of themselves, but I don't really look at it myself that much.
There was fucking... they couldn't release the video nowadays. Yeah. Did they get into it? Like, it's... Christian Woman, it's about kind of like a woman who's deeply Christian, and kind of like, well, in the music video it's about a girl that's coming to kind of like sexual maturity, and she's looking up at Jesus on the cross going kind of like, hey, he looks alright.
He's got
so abs. Then Jesus comes off the cross and it's Pete Steele and he shags her.
I wish we'd looked at the video now.
Yeah.
Pete Steele, do you like skateboards? I like skateboards.
And like, I mean, the thing was, I think the original song was around 11 minutes long, and they had to cut it down to like 3 or 4 minutes for MTV. And same with Black Number 1. Black Number 1 goes on for fucking ever. Yeah. And it was cut down a lot for
MTV.
But it's kind of like that was, and see at the time as well, I think people were in on it, where it was kind of like, oh yeah, this is kind of funny.
Yeah, but you can imagine that nowadays, the absolute furore from like religious people and all the rest would be like, oh, you can't do that. And especially, just in today's climate, no, just wouldn't fly.
Yeah, and like I was saying, it was Kill All the White People is on this one as well, where it's kind of like they were trying to kind of squash kind of like that they were racist as well. Most of them are Jewish as well, so it's kind of like this thing where they were saying that they were like Nazi sympathizers. It's like, I don't think so.
No, I don't.
Yeah. It's like, no.
Not us. Yeah, get a clue.
But like that album fucking, like we were saying, went platinum. It like made him, and it was around this point because Pete Steele, he loved his job so much he didn't want to give up his actual full-time job. And as well a lot, because like people don't really, even in metal particularly, they don't make money kind of from it.
You're not rolling in millions like from touring and record sales and
so
stuff.
it's like hard work and barely getting by, and you're living fucking shitty fucking life.
And when you're off the road, you need something to come back to and start earning, while you're at home and all the rest. So you kind of come back and go, well, back to the day job for a little while.
So I think when it got to the platinum kind of thing, that he the record company put enough pressure on him that he was like, all right.
Okay then.
Yeah. And it's one of the things as well about the recording of it as well that I always found really weird. It's like programmed drums, so basically drum machines they use on the records, but then it's like live
drums obviously,
and this is the last album as well with Sal Abrascato. Yeah. With him as well. He went off and he ended up joining Life of Agony. They're a great band as well. They're still on the go for people, but another New York band as well. And then it went into October Rust, and I think it was after Bloody Kisses they kind of like they said, all right, like women really like this goth stuff, so let's kind of like push that. So
we get loads of women at our gigs.
So it wasn't like they were trying to do a pop album with October Rust, but I think they were trying to do a more kind of like accessible kind of one, and then like as Josh Silver was saying, it was like this is kind of like Peter's version of accessible. With it, but like October Rust is just a fucking an amazing album. With it, fucking absolutely though, it's like did you listen to that one, Jenna, as well?
Yeah, a bit of it, yeah.
Yeah. What's it you?
Elaborate.
Yes. I have listened to it.
See, I think like I didn't really take notice of the album names, so I just threw on like a playlist of the music and kind of listen through it. And I'm
this one would be like My Girlfriend's Girlfriend and Cinnamon Girl and all of those ones.
Yes, I did like that actually. I did listen to that one. It was really, really good. But I don't know, I'm getting more and more surprised each week with the music that we're listening to. You're slowly changing my opinion.
Because as you said, you're like, I didn't hate it.
No, I didn't hate it. There were some songs that I did really like, and then there were some songs that I really didn't like. So, all in all, I suppose I'm somewhat neutral.
Or neither a thumbs
really
up
the
nor a
best I can come
thumbs
up
down.
It was
sorry.
Yeah, go on, Jen. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, like, some of the songs were kind of catchy and they were good, and I liked the sound and the lyrics. But it was only a few for me.
Well, I think it was with this album where kind of like their influences from the Beatles kind of started coming in a bit more as well, where there's more kind of like pop, well, not pop elements, but there's more melodic kind of elements to it. And like this is when kind of like Pete Steele would have became, I suppose, more of a kind of like a celebrity as well. Like he ended up being
a character.
He ended up being in Playgirl. Like there was that famous Jerry Springer episode where he was on talking about groupies, and he turned. I think they asked him at one point saying kind of like, well, would you ever consider having like a long-term relationship with any of these women? He was like, well, you know what he said, if they'll sleep with me, they will sleep with absolutely anyone. So like basically fucking sleeping with like every other band that came to town before.
But it's just even the very the droll way he, like, on the Jerry Springer show, he was like, yes, a lady turned up to my house with just a hat and some stilettos. Yeah, and it was like, my mom answered the door, and Jerry's like, and what did she say? And he's like, Peter is not in.
and you were going to get pneumonia.
Yes, you're going to catch your death of cold, young lady.
Come in, I'll get you a dressing gown and a cup of tea.
Yeah.
I think it might have been around this stage as well. He was on Oz very, very briefly. But as well that they would have been, like, it's the tour with Pantera. I suppose that would have been after Bloody Kisses because they were, like, put on. So they were playing with, like, massive bands. But, like, a real friendship formed between them and Pantera. And, like, there's loads of stories about kind of, like, shit that went on that tour. Kind of, like, just pranks and stuff. Because Metallica, Pantera were notorious for kind of, like,